To the name is Damien Pardo. I'm your host. Forward Miami is a local nonprofit. We like to work with diversity and inclusion. We also like to say that we're the salad bowl for the salad that is Miami. And we're also the producers of the Gay Ocho Festival. Happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot to give thanks for, especially this year. And one of the things I give thanks for are people in our community that do outstanding work. I have the pleasure to have with me today Leroy Jones, who's the executive director of NANA, Neighbors and Neighbors Association. Welcome to the show, Leroy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I thought we could start a little bit by just talking about growing up here. I know you were Savannah, Georgia originally,
Right.
Came down, and then kind of how life went from there.
Yeah. So we moved from Savannah when I was about 9 years old, and I tell you, uh, life was very different from Savannah to Miami, um, and we moved in the heart of Overtown.
In
Back
what way?
in the
What
60s.
strikes you the most about how different it was?
I had never seen apartment buildings like that, high rises. We moved on the third floor. That was the highest building I had ever walked into. A lot of street activity, people hustling on the streets. Never seen that. Wasn't introduced to the gun shootings and the car burning rubber. So I went from a place where that was unknown to a place where it was happening as we're unloading our stuff off the truck.
Wow.
So that was frightening for me. Um, Different experience, man. So, but a experience that helped me grow, learn how to take care of myself. I credit growing up in Overtown in the projects as my college degree.
Yeah.
Learning how to
What
survive.
did you learn most back then about, I guess, defending yourself or protecting yourself or surviving?
So, because I was different, so I got picked on because I was different. Imagine I had that Geechee accent. I dressed it different from the guys in the city. Um, so of course, when you're different, they look at you different. You get the blunt of everything. So I went from being, constantly beat up on, and actually the teachers let me out of school early enough so I can run to get home so they don't catch me on the streets. Um, so it wasn't had nothing to do with color. It had something to do with I was just different. I spoke different. I dressed different. I act different. And but gradually as time went on, I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to run with the big boys,
Mhm.
where they say. So a few years later, I became one of the big boys. Where all the older guys looked up to me. I remember I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. My mom, after coming home from school, back then when you get out of school, you couldn't play until you change your clothes. You could not play in your school clothes. And I remember one day my mom telling me, she called me to the front. She said, "Why every day those big old boys be waiting for you after school?" I said, "No, Mom, we just be going to, playing ball in the street." She said, "You know what?" She said, "Some of those boys like 5, 6 years older than you. Like you younger than all them boys. Why they always waiting for you after school?" I said, "No, Mama, we just be, playing and stuff." She said, "Let me tell you, Leroy." She said, "You the leader." I said, I'm saying to myself, I'm 11 years old. And some of these guys, 17, 18, I'm the leader. She said,
Wow.
"Because you think better than them." He said, "Yeah, I know they fight better than you. I know they hustle in the streets better than you because you're a street boy. You know, uh, they probably smarter than you, but they can't think better than you. You think better than all of them. I listen to y'all conversation and they always saying, 'Huh, Leroy, ain't that's right, Leroy?' That means they asking for your approval." I was 11 years old. I didn't understand,
Wow.
but she told me that I was the leader. I was smarter because I can think better than all of them. And it didn't resonate to me right then. But as I got older, I realized that, I was a thinker and she was right. So
And what did that mean? What did that translate into?
So she told me, she said, the way you live your life is going to determine how some of those guys and you, what path y'all take, because they listening to you and they following you. So if you teaching them negative things, then all y'all gonna go in the wrong direction. If you teaching them positive things, then y'all can do some positive, great things. And of course, I'm 11, 12
Yeah.
years old. I didn't understand at the time until I got much earlier, but
Your mom was
she
very wise
was
woman.
right. So I was fortunate enough to get a job at a local grocery store that was across from my apartment building, Mr. Henson's son. So he allowed me to come and clean up the store, run grocery for him because he knew that I was different, that I, didn't have the street knowledge as the other guys because I was from Georgia.
Mhm.
And I guess to try to safeguard me and protect me, he gave me an opportunity to work in the family store. And I used to go to the cash and carry with him, and I used to watch had that people that was of color used to pay cash for their grocery, and people that was white used to sign a piece of paper. And I say, well, why the black people always have to pay the money, and the white people just write a piece of paper? He said, when you get older, you'll understand how things is. I guess he didn't want to taint me with
Yeah.
anything. He said, when you
Yeah.
get older, you just pay attention like you're paying attention now. You'll watch how things going. And I promised him that when I got older, that I was going to help small black grocery stores. And be
Wow.
careful what you wish for because it might happen. What I realized as I got older, that they was allowing the people that wasn't of color to sign for the merchandise. They didn't have to pay, so they allowed them to sell their stuff and make the profit and then pay for it. But the people of color had to pay, so they didn't have that opportunity. So I didn't know that at the time, but as I got older and my family opened a grocery store, then it clicked to me. And when we opened the grocery store, I had forgot my promise to him until maybe 3 months later. And I said, wow. When I went to the cash and carry, um, I was telling my sister, I was saying, I told Mr. Hintz when I got older, I was going to help small black grocery store owners. And now we got a grocery store. And so I literally changed the store around because I didn't have interest in a grocery store. And when I came home from prison, my sister asked me to come and run our family grocery store. And
How did you get into prison to begin with?
well, hustling on the streets,
Yeah, that's kind of
so nobody to blame. I was my own person. Nobody forced me to do nothing. Um, growing up in an environment like that, and all you see is most of the young guys, they either want to play sports or they want to hustle. And I wasn't an athlete at all. And I watched the older guys that was hustling in the streets. They bought us tennises, they took us to the store,
yeah.
and so I wanted to be a street guy. Because all I knew was that we didn't have people in our neighborhood at that time. That was on a downturn of Overtown because one time Overtown was a very rich in culture, black culture. They had drugstores, they had supermarkets, they had movie theaters. Can you imagine? They had 3 movie theaters in Overtown.
Yeah.
And when we moved in Overtown, all that was fading out. It was 2 movie theaters. One was closed, and one I had the privilege to go into one that was in Overtown when I was a very young kid. But it was on a downturn of all that wealth that was there. Of course, I-95 destroyed Overtown. They
Yeah.
put it right where the wealthy black people was
Right.
and separated them. And so
Let me ask you. Your mom gave you great advice about choosing. What made you think differently
as it
when you
relates to
got
what
out of prison? Like what? Why didn't you just continue down that road? Like what made you?
So I would say probably a month before I got out, I called my mom and told her I was coming home, and she said, Leroy, she reminded me of that story that I told you when I was a kid,
Mhm.
that I can think better than older
You were
guys.
11.
Yeah, 11, 12 years old, that I can think better. She reminded me of that story, and she said, when you get out, Leroy, like, what you gonna do with your life? I said, I don't know, mom. I said, I'm thinking about it. She said, look, she said, your life should have been so much different than what it was, uh, because of how intelligent you are. She said, Now you finna come home. You haven't finished high school. You don't know what you're gonna do with your life. She said, think about this. She said, obviously, you're not a good criminal. So your mom gonna keep it real with you. So she said, if you started using your common sense to something positive, you can be somebody great. And when I got out, my sister asked me to come and help her, my mom, at the store. And immediately, people got was drawn to me because everybody wanted to know where I was because they didn't know people in the neighborhood where the store was didn't know my sister and my mom had a son that was coming to work the store. And of course, I get out of prison, I'm looking good because I ain't in the streets, I ain't indulging in no activity. You know, I'm working out, and so all the girls want to come and meet me because I'm at the store now. And you know, our revenues went from really nothing in the bank to now we got a big bank account. We increased our store from 1,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. We got Century L, the shelves fully stocked, and so my sister came from the cash and carry one day. And she said, "Some of the small grocery store owners want to meet you." And I say, "For what?" She said, "They say they talking about what you done did to the store. They said, what you did to your store, what y'all did to y'all store, Miss Joy, what you ain't, Miss Missy, did to the store." He said, my brother, he made all the changes when he came home. They said, "You got a brother?" She said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, you know you had a brother." She said, "Cause he been in prison." Funny, right? So I was fortunate enough one Sunday, 11 grocery store owners come to meet me and they asked me to help them with their stores. And I had no experience in business other than hustling in the streets. I didn't know anything about running a business other than hustling and went to run my family grocery store. And I made all those changes that all paid off for the best. And now grocery store owners want to meet me and want me to organize this organization so that they can start purchasing goods together and helping each other. And out of that birth Neighbors to Neighbors Association.
That's where Nana came from.
That's where Nana come from.
Wow.
Out of my family's small grocery store.
That became your passion. You mentioned that you weren't really that interested in running a store.
I wasn't because that takes that's hard work. That's being in one place all day.
All day, right?
You know, sometimes most of them work 2 shifts, 12 hours a day. You know, if it opens 24 hours, and if it's not, then that one person usually managed the store. Well, it might be a couple of people, but that one group of people usually stay there all day. And so that wasn't me.
But it was you to teach other people how to manage their store.
I thought it wasn't me. But then remember what Mr. Hintz, the owner of Hintz and Sons, what commitment I made to him.
Credit.
And, you know, I made that commitment that when I got older, I was going to help Black grocery stores. And when I started Nana, it was the mission was to help small Black grocery stores. And it wasn't because I wanted to separate the colors. It was because I was Black and that's all I knew.
Right.
So it wasn't like being racist or nothing. Right. But I was African American and that was there. That's what I knew. And I remember my first program that I was ever able to help small businesses was the Mom and Pop Grant Program. Commissioner Barbara Carey was her name at the time. Then she got married, Barbara Carey Schuler. She one of her aides, Miss Claudette Freeman, noticed the things I was doing with the Black grocery stores, and she came to the store to meet me. She said, "I want you to meet my boss." And her name is Barbara Carey. And I'm like, "Who is Barbara Carey?" She said, "She's an elected official. She the commissioner for this area." And I'm like, "What is a commissioner?" I didn't know nothing about politics.
Exactly.
She said, "Well, she's the commissioner for this area. I want you to meet her because we was looking at all the stuff he was doing." At that time, the Miami Times newspaper was like it wasn't a week that didn't go by that the owner, Mr. Garth Reeves, didn't publish some things I was doing in the neighborhood. So he really, I would say he really is responsible for my career propelling to the level, because he would mention things I was doing like every week in the newspaper, you know, Like,
And people would learn from that.
yeah, he was like really boosting my credibility up, you know, given my background. He was like making people feel like, look, maybe you got some children that make mistakes, but look at Leroy. Like, he was highlighting things I was doing in the neighborhood.
What do you think was the most powerful thing that you were able to do with those stores? Like, what did they need the most, or what helped them the most?
Um, Customer service.
Really?
Yeah. With any
Like
business.
what? Like,
But so I got this thing to where I live 2 blocks from a store, and I would rather get in my car and drive a mile from my house to go to the store, because the store 2 blocks from my house, when you go in there, like, they don't pay you no attention. They're always on the
nothing.
phone or
Right.
talking with people, throwing your money on the counter. You know, they ain't asking you how you doing. And so I would rather get in my car and I go to this other particular store when I need something
I still do that.
small.
I'll still go to a store.
And I go there because when I walk in the door, where they say, "How you doing, Mr.
Yeah,
Jones?" You know,
yeah.
what you think about the game? Man, that was a good game. We got this on sale today. You know, we read about you in the newspaper, man. We like what you're doing in the neighborhood. They speak to me, right?
Right.
Right. They treat me like they they appreciate my money, me coming there.
Yeah.
They put my money in my hand, right? They give me discounts when it discounts, you know? So I would rather spend my time, my gas costing me. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't even really pay attention to what the stuff costs,
Yeah.
because they treat me so
You feel
good.
good.
Yeah, you know? And so I learned that part, what they was missing, that part, and that they was too loving to their children. And I don't want people to miss the point. Everybody should be loving to their children, but they was allowing their children to take advantage of them. They was allowing their children to come in from school, bring their friends, get whatever they want out the store, never pay for nothing, and they didn't realize that that was eating up into their profits, and the children was like taking advantage of them, and they sent them off to college, and when they come back, they don't have no interest in the business. You know, they didn't realize that their family had built future wealth for them and their children, and that because they wasn't educated like them, they didn't get the chance to finish school or go to college, that now their children got these college degrees, and they didn't want to do that. And they didn't understand that their parents had built the foundation for them, and they sacrificed putting them through school and neglecting themselves and neglecting the business because they didn't have the education to run it right. And that's why they sent the kids away so they can learn. But now when they come back, the store is dingy, they don't have nothing on the shelf, and they didn't want to do that. And so that was the part that 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 really motivated me more to help businesses. And
And how
one,
did you deal with that? Like in that situation, what?
so I would have meetings with them. I would explain to them, hey, look, when your children come from school, when they go in the store and they bring their friends and they taking stuff off the shelf and they go in the cash to get money, like like you want to pay for that in the long run. Like like they need to know that if they putting something, taking something out, they got to put something in. They got to spend time there. They got to teach you how to do stuff, because now their children is, the time is changing and things is getting more modern, more easier. Like, they going to school. You got to stop putting your paperwork in a paper bag, in a crate, and taking it to some tax person. You got to organize that stuff. You got to know what you're giving them, because if they do something wrong on your taxes, Uncle Sam ain't gonna go after them. Even though you paying them to do your taxes, it's your responsibility when you sign that. If something wrong, you the one gonna have to pay for it, not the person who did it. So
And
you need to
and
know
did
what it
that
is.
help when they came back? I mean,
Yeah, because we
some of
grew.
them continued with the business, and
Listen,
oh, I wouldn't have made that connection.
so
That's
true.
true.
So true story. This is a true story. So so after 11 small business owners came to my family store to meet me, they wanted to start the group. And so me and my sister, my mom was so happy about it. So my mom said, like, she'll come to every meeting, she'll organize the women. Um, and so we started doing flyers, me and my sister and my wife now, which wasn't my wife at the time. We started doing flyers. and I would pass them out to the stores, and like we would get the 11 that came. We might get one this meeting, one extra next meeting besides the 11 that came. And I was getting frustrated because like I was spending my money and my time trying to get them come so I can help them, and they weren't coming. And so one day I went into this printing shop called Slasher's Printing Center. Mr. Ainworth Smith owned it, a black printing company. And I was saying to myself, these are the last flyers I'm making. Like if they don't come, then I'm not spending no more of my money and my family money trying to get them to organize them, because the group need to be bigger if we're gonna make an impact. And as I'm walking out the door with my last set of flyers, the owner called me. He said, Young Blood, I'm walking out the door, and I've made up in my mind, like, I'm not making no more flyers. This it. I'm just gonna focus on my family grocery store, help the ones that been original part of the group, and that's it. As I'm walking out the store, he said, Young Blood, come here. So I turned around. I didn't know who he was. He said, come here. He said, I've been getting your flyers. I'm sorry I ain't been to none of your meetings.
Wow.
But I'm not gonna miss anymore. He made that commitment. Our meetings was on Sundays, purposely at a certain time, because that's when it was slow for them. He promised me that he was not going to miss no more meetings. But not only that, any flyers or cards I need to make, I can come there and make them for free.
Wow.
I didn't have to spend no more of my money.
Yeah.
And had he not did that, it would not have been 25 years later. It would not have been a Neighbors and Neighbors Association.
Wow. And how many stores are there now? How many?
So it is different now, because now I get government funding. So I have to make sure that board members don't get money, don't get paid.
Yeah.
So it's not organized as a collective organization, businesses together anymore, because that allowed me to help them
Right.
financially. And so where at the early years, we had a organization of all business owners, board members that was active, and because of me getting these government contracts now, and I had to be careful to make sure that there's no conflict.
Sure.
So we decided having a collective organization with business owners wouldn't be feasible for them, for me to help them outright.
Right.
And so I'm proud to say that every business that was a part of when we first started financially benefited, um, uh, financially wise, and through training and skill set. And a lot of them had died off because it was older.
Yeah.
But it's still some that's still around that I still stay in contact with, that I still help. Just one not long ago, maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, she was a board member when we first started, had problems with her roof, and she called me, and I was able to get a roofer to come and fix her roof pro bono, free.
Wow.
And that made how good that made me feel. She retired. Wow. She in her 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she on fixed income, but she reached out to me, and I was able to make a phone call, and 2 days later have a roofer to go over there and volunteer to do her roof. So that really made me feel good to remember that she was one of the people that helped me, that believed in me, even though with my background, trusted me, and gave and said, regardless of that, like, we believe in you, we're gonna support you. And so
it occurs to me that what you do could be done in other neighborhoods, that if they could replicate you, create like two twins, you could put, Hialeah, Haiti, Little Haiti.
So
there are a lot of places, Little Havana, that.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would say in my second or third year of being able to access funding to help small businesses, a Hispanic couple walked in my office and said, Mr. Jones, we watch you at the county commission meeting fighting for businesses so hard. Like, do you help Spanish businesses? And it hit me, because I realized what my mission statement said. And And it wasn't to say I don't help. It was to I was helping what I knew,
Right.
right? And after they left the meeting, I thought about that. I said, you know what? Like if I'm gonna help businesses, I'm gonna help businesses, right? And that next year, I spoke to um, Commissioner Bruno Barrero, which was a county commissioner for District 5, and him had a conversation about the Mom and Pop Grant Program, and I convinced him. He put $200,000 in the program for his area for me, and I'll never forget the first businesses in his district that got funding through my program. I'm doing a I'm going doing a survey to see if they did or what they supposed to did with the funding. And I'm across the street um, trying to get into this barber shop. They wouldn't open the door because I guess they thought I was panhandling. And I hear this lady saying, oh yeah, across the street. And I look across the street and I see the name say Tutti Frutti. And on my mind, I remember she got money. And she said, oh yeah, come here, come here. She couldn't speak English good. So I walk across the street and I tell you,
She had
I
hands.
kid you not, she probably was like 4'11". And I probably was 20 pounds more than what I weigh now. When I walk across the street, this little Spanish lady, she bear hugged me and picked me off the ground. And I'm still trying to figure out how she got her arms around me and lift me in the air. And she was crying to me. And she was so happy. She took me in a store and showed me the new flavors of ice cream that she got.
Wow.
That she was afraid to take her money to take a chance because she didn't know how it would sell. But she took the money that we gave her and brought some new flavors of ice cream. And it was doing so good. And like I remember that. Like every year when this program come out, I remember this lady, like 4'11", couldn't hardly speak English. And she was so happy that this little black kid was helping her in Little Havana, that to to live her life and buy some flavors of ice cream that she wanted to take a chance in with the funding, and it worked out good for her. That she was so happy, crying to me like
That's community. I
yeah.
mean, you made a big difference, in her life.
And so now the program is offered in all 13 county commission districts. It's
And how does it work? Like, how do you apply if you're a mom
so
and pop?
so it comes out usually starting in January. Each commissioner offers the program in his district. It's not a one shoe fit all. They can go to the commissioner's district office. Yes,
they go to their commissioner.
Go to their county commissioner, district
Miami-Dade
office,
County
commissioner's district office, and
tell them. You can find online, or you can call.
You can call 311,
311,
or you can go on miamidade.gov.
Okay.
And put on who's your commissioner, put your address in, and reach out to them and tell them that you're interested in the Mom and Pop Grant Program. They usually start coming out in January.
What a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, just congratulations. Because, I mean, that's so important, and that goes overlooked and ignored all the time.
And think about this, and your listening audience can Google this. August 14th, 2014, the Mom and Pop Grant Program was featured in the New York Times. The New York Times is the second or third most read newspaper in the world, not the city, not the state, not the country, but in the world.
Wow.
They did a study of how programs was helping small businesses throughout the country, and they picked 6 cities, and Miami was one, and my program was the one that they picked in Miami, and it was featured in the New York Times. So anybody who read the New York Times on that day read about the Mom and Pop Grant Program. So this little young black boy that grew up in Overtown, right, created a program in his family grocery store that is a government program right now.
Wow.
That was featured in the second most read newspaper in the world.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's quite a testament to what you can do when your heart and passion.
But that comes with people believing in you.
Yeah.
So somebody had to believe in me. Yeah. Miss Claudette Freeman, who worked for Barbara Carey, brought her to my family store to meet me. She believed in me and gave me that opportunity. And Jimmy Morales, who now works for the mayor's office, fought for me. When everybody was saying, we giving this guy been in prison money, government money, and they said, look, let's give him a chance. Like, he represents some of the people in the community. Let's see what he can do. And they gave me an opportunity, and I haven't looked back. And I'm so thankful that everybody that believed in me in the government aspect that financially helped me, is still alive and witness that little sacrifice that they made, and believe it in me, paid off big time. So it's not a business community in Dade County that you can't go through, that can't see businesses that was affected financially by programs that was created by the organization that I work for.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I have one last little question that I'm curious about as a community person.
Right.
If you had one thing that you could change here, what would that be?
So I think this year, in the last year or two, I think since we got a new mayor too, this year in the budget, they focused a lot on helping small businesses. So because I'm a businessman, I like helping businesses. That was it. But so I would say, this is what I say. This is what I would say. Is that we are still too divided as a community. Everybody is still sectioned off with their own race and their own gender of people. And we have to realize that all of us can do better if all of us do better. So if all of us reach back and help the ones that's not doing well, it will only make all of us less dependent on assistance, which means we can do better.
And it's entrepreneurial. It's help yourself and you're gonna get help.
Right.
It's kind of like it's
right. So we got segments in our community like Liberty City, like Brownsville, like Paran and Goulds and Aranja, that's still way undeveloped. That they haven't did any development in 100 years. But then we got places like Brickell, where they can build a building and 5 years later they'll tear down a brand new building to build a new building. Right? They build a building for $100,000 and 5 years later they tear down a build of $100 million. They'll build a building 5 years later. They'll tear down a build of $200 million building. Like they done tore down so much stuff in Brickell and rebuild it. But we got neighborhoods like Liberty City, Brownsville, Opelika, right? Hialeah, Parson, Hialeah,
Flagler district.
Right?
You have plenty of areas
that have not seen development in 100 years. Like we can't keep doing that. Like we can't keep neglecting these areas that's undeveloped, right? And for whatever reason people think not, like we too strong and too smart of a people here. We got so much going on here. It's so much money here. Like, it's no way that should be happening.
Agree.
No way.
Agree.
Like,
well, listen, you hit the nail on the head, because that's exactly what Forward Miami tries to do. We try to bring these issues and bring these communities to work together, to understand each other's stories a little bit better.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for joining me. It's been a huge pleasure.
Thank you.
And to everyone out there, please join us again next week for the Forward Miami show. Thank you very much.